Welcome to the We Are All Dying podcast. My name is Jenna Goodhand, and my hope is that through these conversations, we become more comfortable, confident, and competent talking about death. On today's show, I'm excited to talk with Claire Dam. Claire is a conceptual photographer with over a decade's worth of work shooting professionally in both digital and analog formats. Her vision and focus come from exploring the rawness and vulnerability of death, joy, grief, life. Her aim is to give imagery and normalize traditionally hidden experiences and emotion. She lives on a small multi-generational farm in Hamilton, Ontario. Claire, thank you so much for joining us today on the podcast.
My pleasure.
I like to dive into these conversations, even if there's like a larger project we're talking about, to just connect with you personally and see how has death shown up in your life? Was there a first moment in your life where you realized, wow, there's an ending to life? Do you remember that for yourself and sort of how that influenced you as a person?
Sure. Yeah, when I was maybe 10, my brother got married and he married someone who'd already survived Hodgkin's lymphoma when she was a teenager. And then it came back while they were married and they were living with us. And then she died when I was 13. And so she was really the only sister I had ever, like as a child. I do have a sister, but her and I were not sisterly until we were adults. So yeah, this sister Martha, she lived with us. So um, yeah, then she passed away, and that was devastating. And it was in the 90s, and a lot's changed since then. And I know they had just had a little boy who was turning one about a month later. So there was a lot of energy and focus put on my brother and the little boy, right? Makes sense.
Absolutely.
Yeah, but there was a 13-year-old who was also devastated, and I didn't get any, no one talked to me about it. I was often left alone, which was really common in my growing up years, just because that's how our family dynamic was. I was often alone quite a bit. I was homeschooled alone. My siblings went to school, all that kind of stuff. So that was my first experience, and it was devastating for a very long time until
Yeah.
I talked about it a lot. Yeah.
Yeah. Wow. And
Yeah.
like what an age, right? For
Yeah.
for some people it's, when you're much younger and so you don't really notice it as much, but
Yeah.
you would have had a very, deep and memorable relationship with this person who,
Yeah.
yeah, and again, with the small child, the focus goes there and wow,
And I
Claire, that's so
totally
cool.
understand it as an adult. Like, I get it.
Yeah, yeah.
Also, at the time, I had been diagnosed with Crohn's disease, and I had almost died myself.
Wow.
Yeah, so that was all within about the same 3 years. And then
Wow.
we moved from my family home at that same time. So, like my childhood home, we moved across the city. And so it was a huge, there was so much grief
Yeah.
going on. There was layers and layers of it, and nothing was really talked about much. We were just coping. And now that I'm a parent, I understand my mom was just surviving. Like, it's all you can do.
Yeah.
So, and then we didn't have the tools afterwards when it was calm to like go in and let's talk about it and let's lean into the pain, all that kind of stuff, right?
Right.
Just like
Wow.
let's just keep trudging forward.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so I mean, I think we're going to dive right into your project because I'm so curious as to, when did you start to talk about this this loss as a child, as an adult, with your mother, who I'll let you kind of talk about, where she's at in her life right now, and did you have the chance to kind of share, hey, this is what it was like for 13-year-old me going through this, and did you navigate that? And yeah, so
No,
what? Yeah.
honestly, oh boy, that's so complicated. No, I have not had a good relationship with my mom because we're very much alike. And mother daughters, it's kind of an old trope. And in this case, it was true. We were very close. She homeschooled me, and then around a teenager, I just started seeing things in her that made me lose respect for her. Um, in how she would cope, and I mean she had years of her own very significant trauma from childhood up until adulthood. That was the 50s, 60s, and 70s. So that was just completely ignored.
Yeah.
And it was manifesting later on. And so I was seeing behaviors that I didn't like. And so
Yeah.
I really kept her at arm's length. And then I kept her at like much further lengths over time. Um, oh, sorry. Um, yeah, and now when I feel like I have some clarity on what I want to know, she can't tell me because she has dementia.
Right. So
It's
I'll let you kind of describe your project.
sure,
And
yeah,
this is the artist.
sure.
Yeah.
Well, it did not start as a project. It just started as a coping mechanism. My dad that was diagnosed with Parkinson's disease about 15 years ago, right after I got married. And he did really well for 14 years. And then uh, it's really vague what happened with my mom because vascular dementia is really hard to pin down when it starts. But at some point, we realized that things with my dad, they were neither were able to support each other, let alone themselves. So we, as a family, there's four siblings. We all had power of attorney. We all stepped in. Thankfully, we're all close enough that we could all step in together. And we're like, okay, how can we support you in this? And it was just also rapid. So the first thing we did is we had my mom assessed for how capable she was to just function and stuff. And she was deemed incapable, which is such a terrible term.
Right.
But it was nice in the sense that it got her to the top of the crisis list for long-term care, which is what she needed because we weren't available to provide the care she needed. My dad wasn't available, but she needed care,
Right.
like a lot of care. So she got into a really wonderful place in Fergus, Wellington Terrace. It's beautiful. I would go there if it's still around when I'm old. Um, and she got placed there on the crisis list and got in around Christmas. And then as soon as I think I talked about this at the show, as soon as we took away my mom, even though she was a disaster, as soon as we took her away and made sure she was cared for, my dad just went like fell right down,
Yeah.
literally and figuratively. So many things started coming up with my dad immediately. So we had increased falling, which is Parkinson's related, of course, but just like multiple times a day, not just
Wow.
once a week, just regularly. And then we found out that he had been having hallucinations. And we'd kind of known that, but then it turned out it had been going on for about a year, and even while he was driving. So he fortunately gave up driving on his own. We didn't have to deal with that. It was very brave of him. And while all this is happening, I started taking pictures because with my mom's vascular dementia, you can often people die from a stroke. It's very sudden.
Mm-hmm.
So I wanted to document her while she was around. So I would just every time there seemed like a crisis with my mom, I would go and I would take a picture and that's how it all kind of started. And then once mom was in care, I suddenly was looking at dad and I'm like, oh, you are in crisis too.
Yeah.
And I started to work with him in pictures and he really enjoyed it. And he was very open and willing for me to take pictures of him, very candid ones, but also we did a few posed ones. And I did it initially because it was very shocking. Um, it's something we don't talk about that you die.
Yep.
Surprise! I don't know if anyone's listening to this and doesn't know, but but we die and our parents die.
Yeah.
Typically, they die first. And we're not talking a lot about what to expect or how to prepare
Hmm.
or how devastating it could be or how sudden it could. There's just like, we're not talking about it.
Right.
Right. And so I felt blindsided and it was fast, but I felt blindsided. And so I'd often take the camera to literally put like something physical in between me and the chaos. Um, but also because, like I was saying, I didn't know when I might see them again if they were going to die between visits and stuff.
Yeah.
Then I was getting the film back because I shoot film, and I would get the scans back, and it would give me a time alone, usually at night, to really examine the images and process them at a pace that was my pace.
Yeah.
And I was learning more about my parents, and um, it was just quite profound. I wasn't expecting it at all. I was not expecting it. It was kind of a knee-jerk reaction to take pictures, and then it turned into something very healing.
Hmm.
Um, yeah, and then what ended up happening is I ended up documenting the decline of my dad into to the point where he had to be hospitalized full time. He had Parkinson's psychosis, which is in his case ended up being quite violent and quite terrifying. Um, and he allowed me to document a lot of that. A lot of that I didn't, but I always had a camera of some sort with me if it seemed like there was a moment. And there were lots of moments, so we documented a bunch of stuff, and he was always on board. I mean, as far as being incapable or capable, he was fairly with it as long as he wasn't hallucinating.
Hmm.
Um, so he was able to give consent a lot of the time, which was really helpful. And then I documented that all the way until he passed away, which was just 3 months later. Just
Wow.
3 months from when my mom left until he passed away. It was just like he crumbled. He just crumbled.
Yeah.
And a lot of the drama and the violence that came from his outbursts and stuff in the hospital was always related to my mom and getting to my mom. So it was directly
Mhm.
related.
Wow.
Even though I will point out they fought constantly when they were together. But I understand that too when you're caring for a sick person and that sick person is miserable. Like, oh my goodness, there's so many dynamics, but you love that person. You've been with them for 60
Yeah.
years, right? Like, you knew them when they were in their prime, and so you still have that love, but they drive you
Yeah.
insane. So we were kind of in the drive you insane
Yeah.
time. Um, and now my mom is in long-term care. She's actually doing really well. She finally has some kind of the mental health support that she has been needing for a really long time. Um, that I think she's been hiding for a long time. So
Mm.
she's doing really great. Or on the other hand, it's her dementia making her forget that she's really depressed. We don't
Right.
know.
Yeah.
But either way,
Yeah.
it's been really nice. Um, and then the next part of the project is meeting my mom where she's at, which I is a new phase for me. So I did you can stop me anytime, by the way.
Oh, yeah. No, this is just
Really
so
keep
interesting.
going. Okay. Um, yeah, so the people keep saying when are you gonna turn it into a book or are you gonna do another show? And I said, well, the story's not done until my
Right.
mom passed away, right? So I don't know what that's going to look like. So I'm just going to keep working with her. But it's been hard because what happened a while ago was she softened because of the dementia or because of the medications that they gave her for depression and whatnot. And she turned into this person who I was like, oh, I think this is what my mom would have been like had she not been so burdened by grief and
Mm.
trauma her
Mm.
whole life. Like, I think this is the person. And suddenly, oh, I had this flood of ideas for pictures and kind of this like, oh no, I don't even have any tissues. Oh, I do have tissues. Good. Um, I was like, oh, this could be a tiny bit of healing for me and for us. And so I tried one, and My mom was an equestrian. She had horses. She always loved horses. I don't like horses. I think they're big, stupid, expensive dogs. They're beautiful, but I would never own one. Um, anyway, so I organized for her to take a day trip with the PSWs where she is to go to a farm and to pet some horses. So the first thing my mom does my entire life since I was
Mm.
like 3 years old is she'd grab the horse by its like little chin, bulbous, hairy chin. She'd pull it in and she'd smell their breath. Do you know about this? Do you
No,
know
but
this?
that's just so sweet.
Okay, so this is a real thing that the First Nations people do. And it's done all over the world. It's how horses communicate.
Oh,
They
wow.
breathe in each other's breath, and that's how they recognize who you are and get to know you. So she would breathe out, and they would breathe in. They get very interested,
Wow.
and they suck in your air, and you go back and forth for a second. And she would always say, "This is how the Indians would do it." And I'd be like, "Okay, First Nations, mom." But anyway, so she would do that. And then she would go and she'd scrub them, they're on their diamonds. They usually have a, whatever on their hair. She just had her way, and I had all these visions for the pictures, and that's what she's gonna do, and it's gonna be beautiful. And she wasn't able to do any of it. She'd
Oh.
forgotten.
Oh,
Yeah. And uh it was devastating. It was whew, yeah, it was very recent, so it's still very fresh.
yeah.
And I was mad for forcing her to do something that she didn't really feel like she was happy to be there. She said it was the best day, and I'm like, okay, it looked awful, but that's great. And like, I mean, it didn't look like she had a lot of fun. But we kept saying like, Mom, like give him a scratch and do this and do, and she just didn't know how. She
Oh.
had lost that piece.
Yeah.
And I was like, okay. So everything that I had wanted to recreate with her um, as my mom,
Right.
I think I have to let go.
Claire, that's so big. Like I really feel that for you because you're at this point now where you're ready for it, right?
Yeah,
You had
yeah,
whatever you had between each other and now you're ready for it. And it seems like the
yeah,
opportunity is there and
yeah.
it's not happening.
I
And
know.
yeah, and it's gone. You've
Yeah,
realized these moments are gone and you can't get them back.
yeah.
And whew,
I know.
yeah,
I know. And so it reminds me of life. Like I have a
yeah,
very, very spicy, strong-willed child, and I just had got her report card, and I wrote back to them today even, and I said, you know what? She's 7. She is who she is,
yeah,
and I'm not expecting. I'm expecting this kind of report card for the rest of her life, and I think I'm okay with it.
yeah,
Is what I said to the
yeah,
teachers or the principal. And that's how I feel like with my mom too. I'm like, I can't
mm,
bring back a part of you that's gone now. And now I just have to take you for who you are.
yeah,
And if there's glimmers of who you are, then that's great. But um yeah, I these visions I had of these healing kind of pictures that I wanted to remember or recreate because they are memories, but I wanted to recreate them. I don't think I can anymore.
yeah. I also want to just note, so you have anticipatory grief and actually like daily grief with your mother, right? Because there are parts of her that you're losing,
Yeah.
but you also know one day she'll die. But
Yeah.
your father also died, right?
Yes.
So how at the same time as a human are you dealing with your grief? Or is it kind of on pause because of what's going on with your mother? Like, how does all that kind of exist in
Yeah.
right now?
A good question. I think it's on pause. I think the grief for my dad um was done ahead of time because of his Parkinson's and because of the few months of him just being in such a crisis.
Right.
That when he died, fortunately, all of us siblings, including actually his sister and brother-in-law, who he was very close with, happened to be there.
Wow.
And yeah, the room was packed. But that was beautiful. And then as he was dying, we were so grateful.
Yeah.
Does that sound creepy? But like, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like we were just, he had been in such agony
Yeah.
emotionally, physically. He was like this all, he couldn't stop moving. He couldn't
Wow.
control the kinesis. I forget the word. Um, And my brother kept saying like he's at peace and this is actually grace and we felt it. So sorry. When he passed away, it was a big relief.
Mm, yeah. And
And
yeah, we talk a lot about like a good death. And if we remember, like we're all gonna die,
yeah. Oh,
like
sorry.
even though he died,
Yeah,
it sounds like that's a good way, right? All of his loved ones
yeah,
were there. You were with
yeah,
each other, right? No one was
yeah,
alone.
yeah,
And it's gonna be sad no matter what. Um,
yeah.
yeah.
But it was beautiful because I was actually the last one to be able to talk to him just because I'm closest physically to the hospital. So I got in there and I said, "Dad," I what did I quoted Shakespeare. I forget what I said. I said, "Dad, are you throwing off this mortal coil?" Because he liked Shakespeare. And he said, "Yeah, I think I am, but they're gonna try some medication." And I'm like, "Dad, I don't think it's gonna work." Like we had a good we I grew up in a family where we really valued honesty. And so it was really nice to go in there and be like, "Dad, you're dying. Are you
Yeah.
ready?" um, my mom came a little while later, and I think they were able to talk. They were talking privately, but
Yeah.
and that was it. And then we lost. And then he just kind of went into a not a coma, but
Yeah.
just shutting down. Um, yeah, it was a blessing, and I don't, and there's moments where it'll come back. But really, what I feel like I grieve the most is the trauma of dealing
Mm,
of being with him in those last few months
yeah.
and seeing this person who was such a gentle, quiet giant turn into a really violent, scary man.
Yeah.
That was the hardest part to grieve, and I think that's something that I'm still processing, and something that I need to keep working on. Whereas when my mom passes away, that'll be a much more heart
Mm.
tie grief.
So interesting. Both of your parents have like changed, right?
Yes,
As they're dying.
yes, yes,
Wow. Wow.
absolutely.
In different ways. Like it sounds
Yeah,
like if it had to be one way or the other, it's probably better for you in the healing process because it
yeah,
sounds like you had a better relationship with your dad. Whereas
yeah,
your mom, you're kind of, wow, Claire, that's a lot. So you took these photos and you decided to share them with the rest of us.
yes.
How did that come to be? How did you pick the photos you picked? What's the experience been like for you so far?
What happened was I had a show set up with Rooney's in Hamilton, which is a photography cafe kind of art space just for photographers. And the plan was I was going to be exhibiting some work I am doing with elderly people, which I have a small collection of, but then this whole thing with my parents interrupted it. And then I went to the owner, Katie, and I said, "Katie, can I kind of pivot and focus on my parents dying?" And very graciously, she said, "Yeah, sure." And I'm like, "It's gonna be really depressing. Like, you're gonna have people crying in the cafe." And she's like, "Yeah, let's do it." So, kudos to her for continuing on. So that's how it happened. Is then I decided from there because that's all the content I had. I didn't have the content we had talked about. So I had my way and didn't already have a show booked, I would have waited until my mom had passed away
Mm,
because that's the end of the story.
right.
Um, but I think it's been interesting to be able to talk about people in real time. Like my dad passed away at the end of March, and then I had a show in August.
Wow.
Yes. So it was real, it was happening. Um, And at the first show, a huge contingency of my family showed up, all of my siblings and a lot of my nieces and nephews. And the people who were there, it was packed, which was wonderful. Like standing room only, it was beautiful. Um, a lot of people who were there who were not my family later said, it felt like we were at a family gathering with your family and you guys were just talking about it because
Um,
there was some back and forth. They were standing at the back, hassling me, whatever. And then we would talk about stuff, and I'd be like, "Hey, Catherine, what did you think about what this happened, or what order was that?" And we would talk. And so it was a kind of a neat exhibit or artist talk in that sense because my family was there and people felt like they were included in the family debrief,
yeah.
which is kind of a special thing. I can't see that happening again.
Yeah.
That was pretty neat. And yeah, sorry, I forget the next part of your question.
Yeah. Choosing the photos.
Oh, choosing the photos.
I'm sure there's way more than what we've seen.
Yeah, there's tons. There's tons. I had a lot of help. I went through and picked based on what I felt kind of drawn to and what I knew held kind of significance. And then there is a photographer, Naomi, who works for a lot of magazines or has for like Vice magazine and Rolling Stone and stuff. And she was connected, or Rooney's connected me to her because both of her parents have passed away, and she has been working on some stuff for them. So I went to her place in Toronto and I laid it all out and I said, help me with this. And she did. She said, this would be good. If you're doing a book, do this, put this series together, but you're not doing a book. So do this and put this, and this should be like this. So that was incredibly, incredibly helpful
Yeah.
in setting things up for the show all on one wall, which is a challenge, but
Yeah.
um, and then there were a few pieces that I included anyway because they meant a lot to me. And like I said, I always had a camera with me, and I'm always experimenting with cameras that I pick up at like thrift stores and stuff. So some of them are 120, which is like those little spy cameras. That's what I call them, really long, narrow ones. I had a few of those because I was trying out that one, and then I had my big, huge, like medium format. I had quite a variety.
Hmm.
So even the ones where the quality wasn't as good, if the heart was in it, then I still wanted to show it.
Yeah.
Yeah. So.
And so I was lucky enough, I found you before I knew that you were coming to London. Somehow I found you, and then I was like, oh, wow, she's coming to London. This is so perfect. So I got to meet you in person. I got to see the exhibit opening night, and you shared the story with the audience. How important do you think that is for helping others kind of connect with what you did, but also, connect with this experience? Do you hope it inspires people to do the same with their family? What are you hoping that people get from kind of having that more intimate conversation with you about your work, in their own lives?
Yeah, I mean, not to sound boastful, but it's not a hope. It's become a reality, which has been amazing and not what I expected. I just had a show booked at Rooney's and I had to do it. And what's come from it is this amazing um, reaction. Um, Katie, who owns Rooney's, was saying regularly people would be coming in crying, or she like just because of whatever they were going through. People wrote in the guest book how it was healing. And I kept saying to my husband, I genuinely don't understand what they mean when they're saying that it's healing. And he was helpful. He was saying it's when you know you're not alone.
Totally.
That's what's healing about it.
Totally.
Right?
Yeah.
Right. And so I'm like, okay, now I understand. So that's the important part is being like, we're not alone in this quiet little thing that happens to everyone.
Yeah.
You're not alone. And there are some people who die peacefully in their sleep, and God bless them. That would be amazing. And there's some people who die really violently
Yeah.
tied to a bed, you know,
Yeah.
and you don't know how it's going to go.
Yeah.
Um, and I don't mean to stress anyone out, but I think being aware of what's possible
Yeah.
and um oh, there's a quote by, shoot, I should have written it down. You might remember it. I feel like you probably would remember it.
That quote. Give
Um,
it to me.
by Mr. Rogers. Do you,
Oh, yeah.
are you familiar? Okay, so there's a really wonderful quote, and I'm going to butcher it, but I'll just paraphrase it. He said something like, um, anything that is not mentionable is mentionable, and then once it's mentionable, it's manageable,
I love that.
right?
Yeah. Yeah.
And that goes for anything.
Yeah.
So if we're dealing with something in our life, we build it up, this little unmentionable thing. And then when you find someone you can trust and you mention it once, twice, 10 times, each time it diminishes its power and it becomes manageable. So I think the more we talk about these unmentionable things like death,
Yeah.
they become manageable, however they,
Totally. Yeah.
because you're like, I'm not alone. It happens to everyone. There's
Hmm.
someone out there going through something similar or already has, you know.
Yeah.
Um, it's how we build these things up in our head. And
Yeah.
if we don't speak them out, then they just become too powerful and too scary.
And
So
and then
there's
we don't know what to
this,
do with them. Yeah, when
right,
they
and you know what
when
to
they
do
hit
with
us.
them. Yep.
Yeah.
So someone in the guest book wrote, my mother's dying right now, and these photos made me less scared.
Wow.
Right. It's beautiful. And again, I don't understand it, but I think what they're saying is I'm not alone.
Hmm. And maybe I'm gonna be okay. Like I think that's the other
Right.
fear. Like
Yeah, okay.
all the time I'm like, I don't know how I'm gonna function if this person
Right.
dies, if this
Yeah.
happens. I don't know how, and so you are showing like it's gonna be awful.
Yep.
It could break your heart, but you're gonna be okay. Like I th maybe that's part of it too, is like there's going to be a way. There's going to be a way after this.
Yes.
But it's interesting because, the photography is beautiful, like just on its own, whether it's about death or not. So,
Yeah.
when I went in, I found myself doing the like, this is what I do when I look at art. So, like, I first am like, wow, you can see, the details of your mother's face. Um, and then when you really connect, like, what am I at right now? It really makes you think about how for a lot of us, whether our parents were the perfect parents for us or not, or somewhere in between, most of us are.
In
Yeah.
between.
Yeah. You realize, like, I don't know how often I've really looked at my mom, like,
Yep.
really looked at my mom, like, have
Yep.
been able to, like, really look at her, study her face, study the life that's happened to her face. I don't know my mom's face as well as that photo showed your mom's face.
Yep.
And so that really hit me as like,
Yep.
yeah, because we're both mothers. And I think every year of motherhood is this deeper understanding of your own mother. And it's really
I know.
a
Doesn't
lot.
it suck?
It's
Like for our moms and for us. I
yes.
think about it all the time, and I wish my mom, like, there's so many things I would say to her, and I've just been writing them down in my journal
Yeah.
because she can't process it.
Yeah.
But I'm just like, oh man, I wish I could have said all these things to you sooner. I am so
Yeah.
sorry.
And you just don't know. And they don't know. Like,
So,
they really do their best with what they've been given and the tools that they
yeah,
have. And
yeah,
so are we. And if
yeah,
we're lucky, we get to talk about it. But I think
yes,
the majority of people, you don't say all the things. And
no.
that's really hard. Okay. The other thing I was really taken by was, with photography, you're usually taking photos of like the best moments, right? Like people are like, hey, pose, this is something we want to remember. This
Yeah,
is like, in a lot of ways, moments that you didn't want to remember, right?
yeah.
That weren't going well. Um, yeah, I don't even know if there's a question there. It's just sort of like an observation of like how we look at using our cameras, right? How we look at documenting time and moments. We can all look back at family photos and just like, oh, those are the good times, but like what's really happening behind the camera? Yeah, so I found that
Even
really,
even with those good times, like you've had family photos
oh,
done. You can
Yeah.
look back at
People are
them and be
screaming
like,
and
oh yeah, they just caught a moment where they weren't screaming.
yeah.
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 No, it's family is dramatic and boring and beautiful and
Yeah.
brutal. It's
Yeah.
all of it. And we like to document these really beautiful curated times. And I think that's really boring personally.
Predictable, right? Yeah.
Yeah. Like I mean, I do have like I'm looking right now, I have a really pretty picture framed of our family. But I there's also a whole story with that. But anyway. Um Yeah, I just feel drawn to speaking of grief, I have a whole other story too. Within a few months, we were fostering a little baby who was supposed to be ours, and he ended up not being and was given to another family. So we had him
Oh,
for 9 months, from newborn to 9 months. So I lost a baby
oh,
at 9 months. It
of
is
course.
like a death.
Absolutely.
And then my best friend was diagnosed with terminal brain cancer. My best friend since childhood. And then my mother had a massive heart attack, and I was home with her, and she did pass away, and they revived her, here at home. And then we were placed with my daughter, Abby, who was 15 months at the time, and 15-month-old little girls are just full of personality and what they like and don't like. So I went from a 9-month-old boy who really couldn't move too much to a toddling around 15-month-old who had an opinion on everything.
Yeah.
Plus, I'm dealing with the grief and I'm caring for my mom, who was living with us at the time, actually. And then my best friend passed away 3 months later. And so I don't know where I was going with that. Oh, yeah, right. And then I started, during all of this, I knew something was wrong with my body. And it turned out I had a football-sized tumor growing on my ovary.
Wow.
And so I had surgery for that, which turned into a whole year-long debacle of hell. Um, and so I reached a point, and also I think it happens with just getting older.
Yeah.
Can I swear on your podcast?
Absolutely.
Wait. My favorite line is, I had no fucks left to give.
Hmm. You'd use them all up.
Yep, that's
Yeah.
it. Done. And I just decided what's interesting to me is what's real and what's vulnerable.
Yeah.
And what's vulnerable can be beautiful too. Like it doesn't just have to be like emotional, crying, dying, all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
It's just whatever, it's just opening up for the
Yeah.
camera.
Yeah.
And so that's what I really started to pursue. So then when this came up with my parents, it just made sense to me that I wanted what was vulnerable.
Yeah.
But I wanted to honor them too. Like for me, I'm a Christian, and I wanted to. I knew that really the only calling that we have as children is to honor our parents.
Mm.
It doesn't say love them. It doesn't say support them at all costs.
Yeah.
It doesn't say stay in relationship with them if they're super toxic. It just says to honor them,
Right.
right?
Yes.
And I'm like, okay, I can honor them. So that years ago, I decided I'm just going to
Uh,
honor you. And at the time, that meant not talking shit about them behind their back when I really, really wanted to. That was how I honored them.
yep.
And then later, when this happened, I was like, okay, so this is the project. I want to honor them, and and where I was at in my life, that honor was not looking away in embarrassment or shame of
Mm.
what they were going through.
Right.
I wanted to honor where they were at and not be afraid and not make them feel ashamed because I couldn't handle it.
Right.
And I couldn't handle it. It was terrifying.
Yeah.
The camera really helped.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, that was kind of my thought process with the whole thing, to honor
Yeah.
them where they were at.
Yeah. Well, I hope you are also honoring yourself and where you're at because that's a lot, kid. For one life, yeah, that's a lot. And kudos to you. You keep getting up. I think you have a broken foot right now, so even
I
more.
do.
Good
Yep.
job getting up.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, I know you're actually off for a visit today. So, I want to just thank you for bringing such a like vulnerable and intimate and, like the exposure of death visually to the rest of us because I'm sure I'm sure there was a lot of hesitation in some days, right? And maybe even some days when it's like been out there, you might question yourself. But honestly, it is healing. It is offering something to people to talk about. And that's what I think is so great about art, right? Is it gives us something outside of ourselves to be with ourselves or with others to talk about it, about, those unmentionables. And
Yeah.
so thank you for moving us forward and making these things that we talk about. And um, I'm sorry
Yeah.
for the sacrifices you've had to make to bring us here, but thanks for using that hard time for good things.
It's my pleasure to talk with you. Thanks for asking me. This is a hard thing to talk about, and I appreciate what you're doing to bring it to the forefront so we can talk about it because we're all dying.
We're all dying. Thank you for joining me in another episode of We Are All Dying. I hope that some of the topics we talked about today will be carried out into your own life, whether in conversation or personal reflection. If you have a topic or a guest that you'd like to see on the show, reach out and let me know.